of 2009, 17-year-old Alex Brown was driving herself to school. She was texting as she was driving, which caused her to lose control of her vehicle and flip it, and it ultimately ended her life. We often hear the phrase arrive alive when it comes to texting or to drinking and driving, but today I would like to take this into consideration when it comes to texting. Practically everyone has a cell phone today, but these should not be used when driving. Stricter laws banning the use of cell phones behind the wheel are necessary in Texas, and these laws can allow for benefits in having safer roads and possibly more government funding. Looking at the facts, cell phone use has definitely increased in the last 20 years, from 50 million users in 1996 to 241 million users in 2007 in the United States alone. This is according to an article called Driver Distraction in Commercial Vehicle Operations on distraction.gov. 31% of Americans openly admit to texting when driving, according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention on Distracted Driving. 87.5% of AAA surveyed drivers in 2009 viewed texting and driving as a very serious threat, and yet this does not stop a lot of people from texting and driving anyways. Ensuring that cell phones are not used by bus drivers that take children to school or by truck drivers that are constantly on the road is definitely a step in the right direction for the country, but there are still a lot of drivers that use their phones while they're driving. This can create dangerous situations not only for themselves but also for the drivers around them. States that have put primary laws giving their law enforcement more authority to pull over people that are caught texting when driving have seen a decrease in the number of accidents caused by this distraction. According to Eric Jaffe, who is a writer for the Atlantic City's paper, there was an 8% reduction in fatal single-occupancy, single-vehicle accidents, but unfortunately this number went back to where it was after a while. Lieutenant Marcia Harmberg of the Washington Bellevue Police Department claims that this is only a transition, kind of like the seatbelt laws when they went into effect. Not many people took them seriously and used their seatbelt at first, but now, according to Jackie McGinnis, who is the New York DMV spokeswoman, 90% of people use their seatbelts. So this could be a sign of things to come when it comes to the anti-texting laws that are being put into place. Other beneficial tools are also being used, mostly aimed at parents that are wanting to ensure that their teenagers do not text and drive, and these are anti-collision devices and GPS tracking tools. A lot of safety experts explain this as being more effective than any law that is being put into place. And Ann Fleming, who is a spokeswoman for the Affiliated Insurance Institute for Highway Safety, argues against banning cell phone use at all, saying that there are many other distractions that can cause drivers to get into accidents and that cell phone use is just one of them. She's definitely right in saying this, but we can still do our part and put our phone down when we're driving in order to be safe and focus on the road in front of us. Other devices that allow us to be hands-free are suggested to be somewhat of an alternative because they're not as dangerous, but they still do give some sort of a distraction. Also, there are phones being made now that turn off automatically when the vehicle is in motion, so this could be somewhat of a solution, although it does seem kind of impractical. States that have enforced these anti-texting laws have seen a decrease in accidents, but also have seen an increase in citations and convictions, which makes a lot of sense since police officers are allowed more freedom to pull over drivers that are texting. With increased education and enforcement, New York and Connecticut have seen a decrease in texting while driving. The benefits of being safe on the road are not only in our physical interest, but also can benefit the state as a whole when it comes to money. Texas has banned the use of cell phones for bus drivers that are transporting children under the age of 17, and also for drivers that have had their license for less than a year. So this is definitely something that we want to keep in place. We don't want to take these laws out, as it's a step in the right direction to provide safer roads. Congress has also authorized a new grant program called Moving Ahead for Progress in the 21st Century Act, which allows law enforcement the authority to pull over drivers that are caught texting. States that have enacted this were given a total of $17.5 million this year Altogether, as a whole country, I guess the states that enacted the laws were able to use these funds for their roads, but the states that did not enact these laws faced losing up to 25% of their highway funding. It's important to know the possible results of taking your eyes off the road just to look at your phone. This doesn't mean that every time you get a text message that you'll get into an accident, but it does mean that the chances of this happening are somewhat higher than if you were focusing on driving and being safe. By doing your part, whether it becomes a law or not, dedicating yourself to not be distracted by your phone and driving, you can ensure you've done everything you can to be a safe driver. Alex Brown's parents created a foundation called the Remember Alex Brown Foundation that is dedicated to educating the public on the dangers of texting and driving. They encourage everyone to go to the website and to take the pledge not to text and drive. And you can find that at www.rabfoundation.org. Cell phones are definitely not going anywhere, and although Texas may or may not pass stricter laws, it's still important to be safe on the road, and it could also provide us more funds if they would pass these laws. So it could help us for having better roads as well. And this also leads me to ask, what will you do the next time that you get a text message when driving? Thank you.